We're on the air doing commercials.
Good evening, everybody. All right, I'll just talk about it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call our Personnel and Finance Committee to order. So this is hopefully our final night of this committee meeting on the budget. We have our packets before us, and there's quite a bit of material here, so I'm going to let Chuck give a quick overview of just the information before us, and then I'll describe how we'll proceed, whether, where speakers will have the opportunity to address us and so forth after that. So Chuck?
Okay, so in front of you have a copy of the regular agenda packet. So that has the order of business and the ordinance amendments that are also part of the budget. There are quite a few this year. You have a copy of this, the operating budget amendments related to sub 1. So we'll be going through those when we describe sub 1. I'll also have them on the screen for everyone else. And then the other packet is the capital budget amendments related to sub 1. So that will go through and the capital, we have a motion for sub 1 on the capital resolution.
Okay. All right, and our next item is going to be Resolution 284, which is the operating budget appropriations for resolution for 2020. And we, like Chuck said,
I'd like to move that one.
Okay, moved by
Second.
Chair Corrigan, seconded by Chenoweth. And what we'll do here is we have the amendment list, our packet before us, so I'm going to have Chuck go through those and highlight especially the ones that are changed. So we, Chuck, Chair Corrigan and I sort of worked things out to try to get things to fit within levy limit, and so that's what's proposed here before you. And so what I'll have Chuck do is go through and highlight the things that are revised from how they were presented to us in our prior committee meetings. And those are the items for which I will take public speakers. So please listen carefully as Chuck goes through this to what is revised, and that will tell you if that's something that you'll have an opportunity to speak to. And if you haven't already done so, to let us know that you're here to speak to an item, please fill out a registration form. I'm having Supervisor Erickson collect and organize them while I move us along through the meeting. So Supervisor Erickson here in the blue sweater can take those from you. So, and again, public speakers will have up to 3 minutes to address the committee regarding an item on the budget. So again, just Chuck will go through them, highlight what's revised, and those are the items for which we will take public speakers. Yes.
I just wanted to point out on the packet on the front, just not that it's part of the official record, it should be 284.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was that?
On this
On the
packet,
packet,
it should say 284.
Operating.
It's not 285.
285 is a capital. Okay, so with that, Chuck?
So the first amendment in the packet is the exec operating 1. This amendment increases expenditures by $54,000 to cover the cost of the county board contract lobbyist services. This resolution, or this amendment was not changed from the one, version recommended by the committee. The next amendment increases expenditures in the county board office by $3,000 to cover increased software maintenance expense. This amendment was not changed from what was recommended by the executive committee. Exec committee operating 3 was changed. Initially, there was a $40,000 cost associated with this. The amendment now just designates that a portion of the county board's program and policy evaluation line will be allotted to cover the cost of a staffing study for the Alliant Energy Center. So the purpose of the amendment is the same. Rather than adding new funding, it's going to use funding that was existing in the county board's budget for 2020. Under Public Protection and Judiciary, operating 1, this adds a .5 social worker to the clerk of court's office in the pretrial service area. This amendment was revised from what the committee had initially recommended to start the position April 1st, 2020. You'll see that theme and revisions a number of times as we go through the packet. PP&J operating 2 adds a 1.0 victim witness case manager position to work on juvenile cases. This amendment was revised to start the position April 1st, 2020. PP&J operating 3 adds a victim witness case manager for restorative justice purposes, and this amendment was revised to start the position April 1st. PP&J operating 5 did not change from the initial amendment that was recommended by PP&J. It grants paid time off for the 10 fixed holidays that the county observes for the staff attorneys. PP&J operating 6 did not change. It reduces revenue by $1,500 to recognize the elimination of the home detention $3 per day fee that is charged to families for youth that are in the home detention system. There's an ordinance amendment later in the agenda that accomplishes and eliminates that fee. This is the budget recognition of that change. PP&J operating 8 provides $100,000 of funding to do a feasibility study for a criminal justice or for a community justice center. This amendment was initially recommended at $125,000, so the revision is a reduction of $25,000. In the Health and Human Needs area, Health and Human Needs operating 2 adds $25,000 additional funding to Outreach Incorporated to fund a staff position. The amendment is as it was recommended by the Health and Human Needs Committee. HHN operating 4 creates a 1.0 program leader position to expand the community restorative justice court initiative. This amendment was revised to start the position April 1st, 2020. HHN operating 5 increases funding for senior nutritional management meal sites for $23,630. This amendment is as it was recommended by Health and Human Needs Committee. HHN operating 6 provides $50,000 for eviction prevention assistance. This was an initiative recommended by the Homeless Services Committee Consortium and the Homeless Issues Committee. It's revised to the extent that it adds a couple of provisions to the operating resolution and suggests that the Department of Human Services, before creating a contract to distribute these funds, that they report and brief the Health and Human Needs Committee on the proposed contract arrangement. And secondly, it suggests that the Department of Human Services new Housing and Access and Affordability Division conduct some analysis of existing gaps in the spectrum of services available to those facing homelessness in Dane County, and to provide analysis on how those gaps might be addressed. HHN operating 7 increases expenditures by $50,000 to fund a contract with Families Back to the Table, Inc. This amendment is as it was recommended by Health and Human Needs. HHN operating 8 increases expenditures by $15,000 for youth mentoring and youth justice programming in the city of Sun Prairie. This amendment is as it was recommended by the Health and Human Needs Committee. HHN Operating 10 is revised, and this initially had $50,000 in funding for the Focus Interruption Coalition, which is a city initiative, and this provides $25,000 of funding. HHN Operating 11 increases funding for the Rate Prices Center by $25,000. This amendment was revised from an amount of $50,000 that was recommended by the Health and Human Needs Committee. HHN Operating 12 provides $15,000 to expand the Dane County Needle Exchange Program. This amendment was recommended by Health and Human Needs at an amount of $25,000. HHN Operating 13 was revised only to provide clarity that the additional funding of $1 million is intended to be for fiscal year 2020 only. All other components of that amendment are as they were recommended by the committee. CLR Operating 1 provides $10,000 to provide base funding for the annual housing summit, and this amendment is as it was recommended by the Zoning and Land Regulation Committee. Greener Operating 1 provides $1,000 of additional funding for the tree board for the annual Arbor Day education event. This amendment is as it was recommended by the ENER committee. ENER Operating 2 provides $12,000 in funding for the production of videos on county board and committee processes. This amendment was revised downward from $15,000 that was recommended by the ENER committee. ENER Operating 3 increases the food system coordinator position from a 0.5 to a 1.0 position. The revision in this case, again, is to start that increase of 0.5 FTE as of April 1st in 2020. In the Public Works area, this Public Works Transportation Operating 1 creates a 1.0 janitor position in late October of 2020 for a net cost, a net GPR of $12,044. This was revised from the initial version, which eliminated a zoo manager position and eliminated a zookeeper position, added a lead zookeeper, and added a janitor as of April 1st of 2020.
After we'll take public testimony, questions and discussion.
Public Works and Transportation Operating 2 provides, reduces zoo revenue and the education revenue by $20,000 to reflect a reduction in revenue that would occur if the zoo began offering scholarships to its education programs for children in need. That is as it was recommended by the Public Works Committee. PNF Operating 1 creates a 1.0 Information Management Specialist 2 position beginning April 1st of 2020. This amendment is as it was presented to Personnel and Finance Committee. PNF Operating 3 is a provision in the operating budget resolution designating some of the duties of the Castle/communications intern in the Office of the County Board to serve as an unofficial campus liaison and to provide outreach among college-age residents. This amendment is as it was presented to the Personnel and Finance Committee. PNF Operating 4 includes a provision for the operating resolution for the Office of Equity and Inclusion to work with the Purchase of Service Coalition to develop a plan related to training for recruitment support, cultural competency training, and microgrants. This amendment is as it was presented to Personnel and Finance. And finally, for the operating budget resolution, PNF 5, this resolution alters a provision in the resolution that designated the amount of the Human Services Reserve Fund at the end of 2019 to be $6,324,859 and reduce that number by $1 million for a reduction in GPR of $1 million. This amendment is as it was presented to the Personnel and Finance Committee. That is all, those are all the amendments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chuck. Just to go back on PNF 03, that is revised, yes? Just language only, provision.
PNF 03. I think there was a very small change in that language.
In the text, yeah. I was just noting it's not, it doesn't have the little dash revised there.
Right.
So, okay. All right. So those are, that's the overview of the amendments before us for consideration and action as part of the substitute to Resolution 284. So with that, anybody in here with us need a quick review of the items, or I will proceed with the those who have registered to speak. And again, you'll have up to 3 minutes to address the committee. Okay. And this is on. Okay. I'll start with Andrew Miller he's registering in support from the DA's office, so I'm assuming that's into PP, regarding PP&J, at least 2 and 3. Julie Foley registering in support, again from the DA's office. Jackie Paddock registering in support from the DA's office. Wishing to speak in support, DA Ozane on PP&J operating items 2 and 3.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for putting these forward. The changes that you have made, delaying them until April, is just fine, and we're glad that we could be flexible. That still allows us to hopefully have these positions up and running before the summer break, when we might have an uptick in issues with juveniles in the community. So thank you very much for putting these 2 positions forward. I think they're going to allow us to do a lot with our juveniles and actually have some formal restorative justice within the system that we currently do not have. So thank you. If there's any questions, I am here, but I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for DA Ozane? Our next speaker is Amy Brown, registering and wishing to speak in support of PP&J operating 2 and 3.
Thank you. I'm just going to stand. I just would like to echo what District Attorney Roseanne just said. I am so grateful that there's support for the 2 victim witness positions. They come on the heels of a very challenging weekend. We, on Monday, had 1 case where we needed to reach out to 14 crime victims in the community to let them know a new case came in. Had to attend court and then let 14 crime victims know. That was 1 case on Monday, on top of all of the other cases. So the extra help that we're gonna get is really, really gonna make a difference, and I wanna thank you for that. I also wanna thank you for giving us an option for restorative justice in the criminal justice system. Victim-centered restorative justice we know works, and we're really excited to have an opportunity to do that in the future. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay, any questions for me? Next, wishing to speak in opposition to the change of, and I think it's PP&J 1 would be Judge Gaylord.
If my duty phone goes off, I have to answer it, just so you know. Okay. First of all, it's only slightly in opposition. First of all, we're very grateful for the comprehensive look everybody has taken in terms of the juvenile and adult system, and you certainly gave us more than half a loaf. So we're very excited about that. The only concern we had is whether we can make sure we start the hiring process well before April 1st so we can hit the ground running on April 1st. And the clerk of courts tells me that they're waiting for an answer on that. So that's the only reason I registered in opposition, is to make sure the timing squares up. Because in reality, if we have to wait till April 1st to start the hiring process, we're going to be deep into May unless something goes perfectly, and probably June, just so you're aware of that. I don't know if that was your intention. That's really all I wanted to say about that. But thank you very much for all you've been doing in this system. It's really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Gaylord. And just for point of clarification, Chuck or Greg, the job can be posted so that the timing would work out for an April 1 start. Would that be an accurate statement? He nodded. Thank you. I'm sorry, any other questions for Judge Gaylord? All right. None. I think the remaining registrants are registering, not wishing to speak, but registering in support of the PP&J operating items. Marley Mann. Registering in support of PP&J items, Julie Elsinger. Registering in support of I'm sorry, that last one, the person was Julie, you were registering in support of the zoo?
For the Metro Zoo budget for the janitorial.
Yep, okay. Apologies. And the same was true for Marley Mann, my apologies, was registering in support of the zoo staffing. And registering in support of the zoo budget amendment, Eric Anderson. And registering in support, again, of the zoo amendment, Neil Rainford. So with that, if there's no other registrants, I will proceed. We can go with committee members' questions, discussion on operating amendments as proposed. Supervisor Ratcliffe, you had a question or?
Yes,
zoo.
on the amendments with the zoo. And I appreciate all of the citizens that put in there. You have more there?
No.
Okay.
Here's my pile there.
That put in their support of the amendment. And I have heard from some employees that also appreciate that the janitor, that there will be then 2 full-time janitor positions, with the one starting in October. But they're also concerned about zoo animal care, and are hoping that the positions that are that Rhonda Schwetz, the director, had indicated would do animal care are going to that, not just managerial positions without animal care. So it's kind of interesting when you put forth an amendment that reduces the budget to then have it changed to increase the budget. So that was a little interesting, but that's,
Okay.
I'm glad that it worked out this way.
Anyone else? Questions, discussion on any of the items? Chair.
Yes, I'd just like to thank you for your work on this. It's never, we were presented with a number of amendments that went quite a bit over what the available levy was, and it's never easy, coming up with those, but I think we really have a package here that really focuses on some of the things that we've, as a board, focused on in the past, and it reinforces our work on criminal justice and in human services, trying to help people live successful lives in our community, and focusing on our continuing that work on innovative criminal justice measures that work. And I think that on the mental health side, it reinforces what was, some good ideas that were in the budget to begin with, and are reinforced in this with mental health measures. So I think it's a good budget, and I'm proud to be supporting it.
Anyone else? Well, I'll just echo, I had a whole lot more than what you said, Chair Corrigan. I think we planted some seeds here that are starting some good things to address some challenging issues, whether it be in the DA's office with some of the criminal justice issues, and building up our efforts in restorative justice efforts. I wanted to add some clarification on the zoo amendment side of things. I understand there's some concerns about some of the janitorial services there. It is a challenging situation given the seasonal work in that area. But I wasn't real comfortable micromanaging, but I felt like maybe micromanaging management a little bit. But more importantly, there are some things that with the transition from the Zoo Society, that some duties I felt fell to Controller's Office and DOA here that really should be done out at the zoo, and this will allow for that work to return to being done at the zoo where it should be done. So, but I thank all of you for your work and the various committees' efforts in prioritizing and trying to think outside the box on some things, and but really prioritizing and presenting amendments to us. While it was the aggregate total did go over, would have gone over the levy limit. I think especially Health and Human Needs whittled things down and helped us prioritize. And so I think between our efforts here, we were able to get things down to within the levy limit while preserving the sentiment that folks had in their amendments. So with that, I guess I'll call the vote. If there's nothing else. Well, and also thank you to staff, especially to Chuck, for all his work too. All right, with that, I'll call the vote. All in favor of recommending sub 1 to resolution 284, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. All right. Now we're on to resolution 285, 2020 Dane County Capital Budget Appropriations Resolution, and we'll repeat the process with these amendments as well. Again, those items which are revisions, we will take public testimony if anyone wishes to. Again, please listen for revisions and complete a registration form and give it to Supervisor Erickson. With that, Chuck. Oh, let's get a motion, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Someone.
Moved by Nelson, seconded by Corrigan to recommend approval of sub-warrant resolution 285. Okay, now Chuck.
Okay. Public Works and Transportation, Capital One. This provides $495,000 in funding, expenditure increase in borrowing proceeds to create schematic design for aspects of the Phase 1 redevelopment, including with priority to the exhibition hall at the Alliant Energy Center. This was revised slightly at the bottom of the amendment. The underlined language was what was added in the intent and justification. Here we go. Public Works and Transportation, Capital 2. This provides $100,000 of expenditure and borrowing proceeds authority to continue the project management and community engagement aspect of the AEC planning effort. This amendment is as it was approved, recommended by the Public Works Committee. Public Works and Transportation, Capital 3. Provides $100,000 for lactation accommodations. This to be placed at county facilities. The only revision here is that it talks about potential sites for placement, including the Alliant Energy Center and other areas. The feasibility of each location will have to be analyzed, whether these facilities can fit in and be accommodated in the facilities. And the Alliant Energy Center had already been contemplating an installation of one of these units. The $100,000 is could provide 4 or 5, so we'll have to work with the departments to see where those will best work and where the best impact would be for the public. So that's the only change, is that initially it just had 4 sites identified. Other sites might be able to be accommodated if we can get them cheaper, or if one site doesn't work. Public Works and Transportation, Capital 4 is as it was recommended by the Public Works Committee. This is a provision that suggests that the Department of Public Works and Transportation, or Highway and Transportation, will provide an analysis to the Public Works Committee on comparing the costs, advantages, and disadvantages of purchasing fully assembled highway trucks or assembling those trucks using county labor. The Executive Committee, Capital 1, is as it was recommended by the Executive Committee. This increases the expenditure and borrowing authority for the space remodel for the county board offices as they are relocated to the 3rd floor. Initial cost estimates to date are higher than what was included in the 2019 budget. Exec Capital 2 is as it was recommended by the Executive Committee, $25,000 of expenditure and borrowing proceeds for replacement of equipment that the iPads, basically mostly for supervisors that using the Legistar system. P&F Capital 2. This provides $1.3 million to support the Bayview Foundation's redevelopment project. The financing for the project needs to be secured by June 30th, 2021. And this amendment is as it was presented to the Personnel and Finance Committee. P&F Capital 3 has not been presented yet. This is a new amendment, increasing the Affordable Housing Development Fund by $1 million to a total of $4 million to be RFP during 2020. P&F Capital 5 was revised slightly. This was not presented to the ENER committee, was presented to the Personnel and Finance Committee in a different form. although the sponsor, as she was here, described a little bit different version of the program than what the initial amendment outlined. And this amendment, as it's revised, captures Supervisor Jones' description of the project that as it was presented to the committee. The total is for $100,000 for to provide grants to Friends of the Parks groups. HHN Capital 1 provides $1.3 million for the county to contribute toward the Salvation Army's shelter and residential mixed use project. The revision here was discussed at this committee when this amendment was initially presented. The revision puts a deadline for December 31st of 2021 for the Salvation Army to arrange financing to complete the project. ENR Capital 1 is as it was recommended by the ENR committee, and it designates $65,000 of the Yahara Clean funding that's included in the budget for a compost turner, a grant for a compost turner and spreader at the Endress Farm as part of the Yahara Pride composting pilot project. ENR Capital 2 is as it was recommended by the ENR committee. This increases expenditures in the flood land acquisition program and borrowing proceeds by $3 million. ENR 3 is revised from the version recommended by the committee. This provides $2,550 for the apple orchard project at Silverwood Park to be completed in 2020. And finally, PP&J Capital 1 is as it was recommended by the PP&J committee. $20,000 of expenditure and borrowing proceeds to replace the exercise equipment at the juvenile detention center. And those are all the amendments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chuck. All right, so anybody, do we have any registration?
No.
Okay. Last chance, anybody wishing to speak on any of those revised amendments? All right. None on the motion. Is there discussion? Supervisor Chenoweth.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to thank Chairman Miles for entering this new amendment for $1 million in the affordable fund. I think it's very much appreciated from the subscription to this fund. It's been very well received over the last 3 or 4 years, and wish we could afford more. But I think this was a very good add to the budget this year. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate the support of the funding for the Salvation Army and the Bayview project too. All of those are going to add to our effort to provide affordable housing throughout the county.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other discussion? All right. All done. On the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Resolution 35 is recommended to the vote. So, this takes care of capital resolutions. So we are on to resolution 286, setting the 2019 tax levy.
So, Mr. Chair, sub 1 of that, which the only thing that's different is that the result of all the operating amendments is an increase from the county executive's proposed tax levy by $800,000 even.
Second.
Corrigan, seconded by Chenoweth to recommend approval of sub 1, resolution 286. Discussion or questions? On the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. On to our ordinance amendments regarding fees. The first one is Ordinance Amendment 10, amending Chapter 70 of the Dane County Code of Ordinances regarding parking ramp fees.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Corrigan, seconded by Eicher. Discussion or questions regarding this? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, item 5 is OA 12, amending Chapter 41 of the Dane County Code of Ordinances, modifying landfill disposal fees.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Corrigan, seconded by Clausius. Discussion or questions on and the motion to recommend approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 6 is OA 15, amending chapters 45, 46, and 47 of the Dane County Code of Ordinances, adjusting fees charged by public health and correcting administrative code references.
Move approval.
Moved by
Second.
Stubbs, seconded, I heard first, Hiker. Okay?
I moved approval, so sure.
Oh, all right. Well, regardless, I heard Stubbs first. Stubbs, Hiker. Discussion or questions on this? All right, all in favor of recommending approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item is OA 16, amending Chapter 46 of the Dane County Code of Ordinances regarding public health permit fees. Moved by Nelson, seconded by Corrigan. Okay, discussion or questions on OA 16? Motion to recommend approval, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 8, OA 17, amending Chapter 48 of the Dane County Code of Ordinances regarding tattoo and body piercing licensing fees.
Move approval.
Moved by Nelson,
Yeah.
seconded by Eicher. Discussion or questions on OA 17? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. OA 18 is amending Chapter 62 of the Dane County Code of Ordinances regarding medical examiner fees. Moved by Stubbs,
Second.
seconded by Eicher. Discussion or questions? Okay, on the motion to recommend approval, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Next is OA 19, amending Chapter 67 of the Dane County Code of Ordinances addressing airport terminal rent and landing fees.
So moved.
Moved by Ratcliffe, seconded by Clausius, or Chenoweth.
Clausius.
Okay.
More confusion.
Discussion or questions on that? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Next is OA 24, amending Chapter 62 of the Dane County Code of Ordinances, rescinding juvenile home detention fees. This relates to PP&J 06.
Move approval.
Moved by Eicher, seconded by Stubbs. Discussion or questions on that item? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 12, OA 25, amending Chapter 54 of the Dane County Code of Ordinances, revising Alliant Energy Center parking fees.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Ratcliffe, seconded by Nelson. Discussion or questions? None, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. That concludes the resolutions and operating amendments portions of the agenda. Next, we have next meeting items and dates. I forgot to look at what our next
Well,
meeting
we technically, we would meet on the 11th, since
don't.
our meeting is 10 days after that, but did we
Right, I think it's
schedule
like
it on
the
18th?
17th or something.
Yeah,
18th
The
is the next
18th,
regular
yeah.
meeting of the
Yeah.
committee.
The 18th, 5:30 on the 18th. Tomorrow night's meeting will not be necessary, so next meeting will be November 18th.
18th or 17th?
18.
Sorry.
So it's the same week as the county board meeting because we're doing the budget on the 11th.
So with that, any public comment regarding items not listed on our agenda? Any wishing to address the committee regarding anything not listed on our agenda? All right. Other businesses allowed by law?
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Chenoweth, seconded by Nelson to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.